And we are now recording the July 15th, 2016 Small Business Accounting Advisors demoing Knowify today with Dan DeRelay. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Gina. How are you?
Doing good. Looking forward to this. This is exciting stuff.
No, I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to show you guys through Nullify, to show you what we've built. I think it is pretty exciting. I mean, it's sort of the first time I think a lot of the construction contractors you work with and that are on our platform will have an opportunity to see how they're doing against their budgets in real time. It really is leveraging the power of the cloud to give real-time insights, which is pretty cool.
QBO has been waiting for job costing, and what you present just blows job costing out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's a much richer approach to job costing. I think that's how we think of it. It's not just sort of like, okay, what sort of money did I make on the job? What's my P&L? But it's sort of, if I break it down by budget line item, if that's what I want to do, and track, okay, so how did I do on this piece of work? How did I do on another piece of work versus my original expectations? And then using that over time to get better as an estimator or whatever I'm trying to accomplish as a construction company. And I think that's why it's potentially so valuable to these contractors.
And you know, one of the other things that I have noticed is the setup is not as complicated as some of the other systems that I have seen. I think Sarah can speak to that a little bit more. But other systems, you have to get down to the very granular level. I think with your system, you can pretty much open it up and go.
Yeah, there is some turn and go. I mean, there is, of course, some setup involved. You're obviously not going to get good labor costing if you don't go in and tell the system what your guys cost you, to employ. But no, I mean, I think the setup process is almost always less than an hour. So I think in the world of software, especially business management software, if you can get them in and get them operating in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, that's a win. And then it's just to the races.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Sarah, do you want to make any comments?
Sure, yeah. It's been obviously, like you said, the more richer approach for us as well, and the huge reason why I moved to QuickBooks Online. I love the way it integrates with QuickBooks Online, and I'm still learning so many tips and tricks on how to, properly class code, how to identify where expenses go correctly so they're not a pain in the butt mining on the other end of it, just making sure everything is clean. And then just always remembering how simple it is, because you can get complicated in your mind. But if you just no, it's a really simple system. But what it produces is incredible, and it's so real time, and just getting the staff online with it. We use the app. We have the staff now using the app to show purchases for vendors and credit card purchases. And I think I just keep breaking everything just for fun, I swear. It's a lot of fun. So I keep posing more challenges for them, but I enjoy it. So.
That's good.
Yeah.
All righty. Dan, would you like to start our demo?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, I mean, Nullify is, as you all well know, it's a system designed for construction contractors. It's broken down into functionality areas. We have contract job management, which is going to be your classic construction projects. We also have dispatch jobs. So if you're doing, service ticket work, we do have a dispatcher built in. Time tracking, as Sarah mentioned, we have a mobile app with check-in, check-out. We have a foreman-based view on the app, which allows a foreman to keep track of time on behalf of his crew. We have office-based timekeeping as well. So, a whole lot of features around time tracking. Integrated purchasing and bills so that you can create POs straight out of Nullify or record receipts for credit card expenses and potentially reconcile your POs with vendor bills and then have those synced to QuickBooks. So a lot of expense tracking in Nullify. We also recently added the ability to pull expenses out of QuickBooks, which is actually a really cool feature. So that if you want to cost certain credit card transactions and things that you're pulling into your QuickBooks to a Nullify job, you can just tell Nullify to go out, sync with QuickBooks, pull in all those expenses, and then use our job costing hub to point it to the job and to the budget line item that it goes to. On the invoicing side, we support standard invoicing, which is just going to be a regular looking invoice, but with really powerful progress billing features. This is obviously a really important thing for clients in the construction space who are trying to use QBO, because QBO really doesn't offer any progress billing at all, and Nullify has very strong progress billing. We also support AIA applications for payment. So for your commercial guys, we take what is a very complicated process in the AIA billing, and we make it very, very easy. So, that's for commercial contractors, it's a big deal. We do resource scheduling in our scheduling section. We have internal projects if you want to capture costs and allocate them to sort of internal budgets, things like, my employee PM time or yard time, stuff like that. A catalog which syncs with the list of products and services in QuickBooks. It also has an additional layer of functionality in Nullify where we actually have service templates so that you can very quickly pull in some item of repeatable work. So, for example, installing a roofing system, painting a room, something like that. And then Knowify will ask you based on a unit you define. So, for example, how many square feet of roof are you installing today? And you'll see this as we go into the demo further. But once you type in how many square feet of roof you're doing, Knowify will pre-populate the required labor and materials. So it's a great and very fast way to put jobs together. And then we obviously have a module for managing the QuickBooks sync. Now, Knowify does permission each one of these modules pretty much individually. So you can control who gets to see what. And that, by the way, is handled in our users section in the admin area. So I can come over here to users, and you can see for each one of my users, we have these 10 privileges. And you can control, again, who gets to see what. We also have purchasing authority. So this really interesting idea of you can actually push purchasing down to people in your office and set the level of spending they're allowed to do without it actually going up to their boss or their boss's boss for approval. So we have full built-in PO workflows, and if you're processing bills in Nullify, those can actually be sent for review as well. So a lot of ability to manage, basic office workflows in Nullify automatically. Okay, so actually going into a job, let's go through and sort of put a job together. So I'm going to go into my contract jobs. I'm going to say add a new one. I'll do it for Petrina General Contracting, and we'll call this Small Business Advisors Demo Job. And, first thing Nullify is going to ask you is, really, it's how are you going to bill for this job? We have our owner contract type, which is probably the most popular, and this is going to be fixed price, % completion billing. This is going to be, a ton of residential work is done this way. And the idea is that we're going to use a standard invoice and bill % completion for our line items. We support a very similar idea, which is % completion for line items, but using the AIA style application for payment process. This is, again, the standard in commercial construction. So if you're doing commercial work, chances are you're going to have to use this form set. For now, I'll probably do an owner contract, but I have another job active in this tenant, so I can come back at the end and show you how our AIA Pay App Builder works. We also support maintenance contracts, which actually, interestingly, take advantage of our dispatcher. And for those guys who are doing cost plus time and materials, we support that as well. All right,
So,
scrolling
I'm
down.
sorry, can I ask a question? Maintenance contract, that means like if you offer a maintenance program, you can set up times and schedule it like it's due every quarter? Or?
Yeah, it's even a little bit more interesting than that. So what happens is you say, and you have exactly the right idea, which is sort of every quarter I agree to come by and check your generator, or I am going to go perform an inspection on your sprinkler system. So we see this a lot with specialty trades contractors like that.
Non-maintenance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. So it's absolutely been used by landscapers to schedule repeating work like weekly or biweekly landscaping work. But what we'll do is we'll create a pending ticket in the dispatcher saying, hey, look, you're scheduled to go out and perform this service. And it's a reminder ticket that sits up there at the top and says, hey, don't forget about this. And then as you move through time, even if you can't schedule to do it that day, as you move through time, it's just going to stay there at the top and keep reminding you like, hey, you were supposed to schedule this, for some time around now. Make sure you get this, pull it off your dispatch board and get it scheduled out. So it's a really cool and powerful reminder system. And of course, it takes advantage of all the contract management features in Knowify. So we're going to know what to bill it for if you are billing every visit, if you're billing on a monthly basis, all sorts of interesting features around that as well.
Nice, nice.
Okay, so I chose owner contract to make this a fixed price % completion billing job. And now it's going to ask me what sort of job costing style I want to use. Now, this is much simpler than it sounds. All we're asking you is, how much Nullify do you really want to use in this job? If we do simple, you're going to go straight to bidding. You're not going to do any budgeting at all. So it's obviously by far the fastest. And then once the job goes live, even if you bid 10 line items, we're only going to track costs against one overall job level labor and materials budget. So for guys who just are trying to get started and don't want it to be a pain in the butt to get started, and they want to keep it really easy, really simple, just have basic high-level job costing information, simple is a great way to go. We also have on the other end of the spectrum, we have professional, which is classic Nullify. And the idea here is that you're going to be really resolved with you have the ability to build budgets, and then ultimately when jobs go live, track against your budgets in real time. I mean, this is really obviously the much more powerful version of Nullify, but it's also more work. And so, just for getting clients started, sometimes starting with simple and advanced really does make sense. Because, let's ease them in and then sort of over time push them towards, I think, the more powerful.
Well, I have a feeling that you can start them simple, and then once they see the power of it, they'll be going to advanced or professional on their own.
Yeah, I mean, that would be our goal. But we also don't want people just to jump in both feet in professional and say, oh, my Lord.
Overwhelmed. Absolutely.
Okay, so because we have a mobile app, we have this ability to set the site address, and this would just let you tell the system where the job actually is, if it's different than the billing address for the client. And this is what we're going to use for the GPS verification on the app. So I'm going to save this. And now I'm brought inside our plan and track area. This is because I chose professional mode. Had I chosen simple or advanced, I would have gone straight into the proposal creator. But now that I'm in here, I have the ability to put together our budgets for this job. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to add a job phase. Let's say the first phase of this is like a demolition. On a demo, usually your materials budget, it's just basic things like dumpster rental, hauling fees. So I'm going to say $500 and be sort of lazy, not itemize it. And then I'm going to add my labor by saying add role, resource, and come down here. And I'm going to budget, in this case, a generic foreman, because I don't know who I'm going to put on this job yet. I haven't even won it. And I'm going to say I'm going to need him for 2 days, so 16 man hours. And then I'll go and I'll say, I'll put 2 tradesmen with him, so 32 man hours of tradesman time. And you can see what we've done is we've automatically pulled in hourly costs. In this case, we use fully burdened rate cards in Nullify for labor costing. And if you're choosing a generic foreman, generic tradesman, what we're going to do is we're going to average the fully burdened hourly cost for everyone with this labor role. So I'm going to take the average of all of my tradesmen's hourly costs and say that, generic tradesman, I'm going to cost it $21.67. Obviously, once the job gets going and guys start putting in their actual time, we're going to give you the real, the actual cost for that specific person for that job.
That is really awesome that you do that behind the scenes, because that is one less setup piece you have to do on the front end.
It's one less box you have to fill in to budget, right?
Absolutely.
But what's cool, so I'm going to add another phase here, and I'm going to show you our service templates, because this is actually really quite interesting. So I actually put a very quick service item in here before the demo. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to say use service template. I'm going to say install TPO roofing system. So TPO roofing systems, it's a particular kind of commercial roofing generally that's used on flat top buildings. You can see the system's now asking me, okay, how many 100 square feet of roof? And the reason we don't do it per single square foot is because it doesn't really make sense to talk about how much labor it takes to install 1 square foot of roof. But 100 square feet, sort of gives us like a useful, measurable quantity. So let's say if it's a 2,000 square foot roof, I put in here 20. You can see Knowify instantly scales out the labor and materials required for this. And so once I click go, it says install TPO roofing system, has all of my materials ready to go. And realistically, for a proper TPO roofing system, this would be, 20 items long. But even more powerful in that case, right? Because then you're not manually budgeting each individual item, and it scales out my labor based on what we know it takes to install 2,000 square foot of roof. Now, I could always, if I had to adjust this, I could say, oh yeah, this one's a little funny, maybe need a little bit of additional material. That's to be expected. I mean, there are idiosyncrasies to every job. Okay, now when I save these changes, it rolls up into an overall labor and materials budget in total, and this is cost to me. So labor cost $2,800, materials cost $3,900, total cost to me is $6,745. So now when I go over to create my proposal, click on create contract, I'm going to use my project plan as a starting point. You see it's going to populate my demolition and my install TPO roofing system. I can very quickly throw in here what my labor and materials markups are going to be. I can also put in, details and comments for the client as to what this entails, remove existing roofing system, haul off all demolished material. And then I could do the same thing over here, lorem ipsum, blah, 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 blah. And, there's some other little quirky things we can do here. So we know from experience that contractors are very finicky about their proposals. They don't necessarily want to show a line item that says $2,693.18, especially if they're working with GCs. So they might just round it out. And that's actually okay. It won't necessarily match with their markups now, but it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, this is the number that actually we care about in Nullify is the final thing they put in here. So now we're going to say $7,000 for the roofing system, $2,750 for the demo. And now I can come down here, and what's actually really interesting, and actually my Zoom info is in the way, we can turn this into a ready-to-sign PDF, and we can do this in a way that's, that reflects your own branding. So this is our actually boring stock Nullify template. I think what's really cool is that we have a Word document-based templating engine on the backside of Knowify. So you can send us the Word document your guys have been using to bid for the last 10 years, and we can populate it with Knowify data so that it looks like your document. It looks like, something that really reflects your branding, but totally automated, so you're not going into Word manually hunting and pecking and typing in all these words, that you're doing it only one time in Knowify, which you would have to do anyway for tracking. But now, hey, look, we're putting together into this ready-to-sign PDF for you, potentially saving you lots of time. And I think one of the things we like to think about, the value proposition of Nullify, we help make, especially small contractors, we help them look much more professional. You can think about it almost as like punching above their weight, right? So that rather than looking like guys who are just sending stuff out, via emails for poorly formatted, ugly-looking documents, saying, yeah, trust me with your house, or trust me with, this important commercial job that Mr. GC, please. We can make them look, like a very serious, well-run organization. Hey, look, I'm sending you a proposal through a system that formats it beautifully and presents it for e-signature. That's like big company stuff, right? That's
awesome. That's awesome.
So,
and I'm going to pause here for a moment. Dennis has some questions. Dennis, would you like to unmute? Dennis, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay.
The questions I had, are you looking at this from the perspective of a general contractor or a subcontractor, or both?
So we typically work, if you want to think about the marketplaces Knowify serves pretty well. So we do trades and specialty contractors really well. So those are subcontractors. Okay. The guys like, HVAC, plumbers, fire suppression, specialty contractors like, concrete, specialty masons, metal workers. That stuff we do really, really well. We don't target commercial GCs at all. They have their own software. They have their own problems. We wish them luck. On the residential side, we do, I think, very well with remodelers and guys like that. We do have subcontractor management features. I didn't really go through those. But we don't really target, for the moment, home builders. We don't really do that much unless design build firm, unless it's a design build firm doing remodeling, which is the case a bunch of times. But if they're really built, if again, it's like a custom home situation, that's not really our client. Now we are, in the back half of this year, we're building a really cool subcontractor management portal, which is going to let subs log in, participate in invitation to bid type processes. That sort of thing will really open us up, I think, more to the GC marketplace, in terms of like the custom home builder, big scale project GC. But for right now, I mean, Knowify began as a system for subs,
Okay.
which I think you probably already knew. I mean, I think you probably saw that.
I was just kind of wondering if, say, the subcontractor was using Nullify and the general was using Nullify, can you exchange data?
It's something we've begun thinking about with our subcontractor portal, because one of the things we'd obviously love to do is have residential GCs using Knowify be able to interact with subcontractors who are also using Knowify in a way that, obviously passes data really cleanly between them, but still gives them the power of Knowify if they're using it independently. So yeah, I mean, that's current thinking. It's not live yet.
Because I was thinking that with a sub, you probably just put in what they bid and then compare, what they're charging you versus what was bid, as opposed to.
That's right. So here, I can go into this other job that I was working on earlier, and I'll just amend it quickly to show you sort of how this works. But we have this sort of subcontractor phase that you can add here for whatever their activity is, right? So, I'll call this, demolition sub. And I can put in here my cost. I can make this active. And I think what we do that's even a little bit more powerful than what you were suggesting, we have a whole open PO system that lets you track your committed costs, like your contract committed costs to that sub. So if I scroll down to my demolition sub, I can select which sub it's going to be. So in this case, maybe I don't have one. Unfortunately, I don't have any subs in here to choose, but I can choose, let's say, Camco. They're going to have a subcontracting service. And what we're going to do right off the bat, once you select that sub, we're going to create an open PO for the contract value. So PO number 4 now is a PO for that contract value, and you can hit it with as many draws as you want. So you could hit it 5 times, 6 times, doesn't matter. It's a classic open PO. It's not like an item-based PO in QuickBooks. And we also have the ability to increment or decrement that PO with subcontractor change orders. So I can come here, I can say it's a $500 change order for, demolish more stuff, and then this is going to increment that PO so I can track, what I have to pay this guy over the course of this contract. And then obviously as vendor bills come in against it, this bar fills up, I get to see all my payments, etc.
So does the information come from QuickBooks as far as what was paid out to the sub, I'm assuming? Or
it can. It's one of the things where you can either process that payment in QuickBooks and pull it into Nullify and then point it to this, or you can just come here to add subcontractor bill. It takes me straight into Nullify's billing area. I come in here, I write what I'm going to pay the guy. So maybe this time he gets a $1,000 draw. I'm going to say that this is, down payment or whatever. And this is going to push to QuickBooks right away. So it's up to you to decide what the process is.
Okay. Yeah, I think they were saying this more as a two-way sync between.
It is. Yeah.
The other question I had is can you allocate overhead?
You can. We generally say don't. I think we want Nullify to be seen as a powerful project and job management tool. And so we would want you to think about Nullify as helping you determine job margin, like how much money you're making job to job.
So it's not fully burdened then, as far as.
You don't want to burden, we don't want to put your office rent, your accounting costs, those sorts of things against each other. You can. I don't think, we again would want you to focus on job margin in Nullify. That's our goal is to help you understand how much money you're making on your jobs.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any questions at this point? So I'm guessing silence means no. So we can continue.
Cool. So I went into my email because I had sent myself the proposals if I were the client. You can see it saying proposal for our SBA demo job from Dan Roofing. I attached the proposal.
We're echoing a bit.
Echoing, yeah. So we attached the proposal for the old school guys who want to be able to open and print these things out, and there's still a lot of them, so it's sort of important that we do that. And then we have this link where the client can just click on it. They're brought into Nullify's secure e-signature infrastructure. They can view the proposal now and say, oh, yes, this looks great. Now, of course, they can request revisions. They can decline it. We hope they don't do that. We hope instead they say click and sign. They type in here, whoever they are. And boom, off it goes.
Nice.
And what's cool
that speeds up the process a lot.
Yeah. And I forgot to show you guys, and maybe you saw it as we were going, but this actually would show a purple color that says out for signature when it's out for signature. And there are other buttons here right on the top of the interface that say, send reminder. So what's outstanding. Which ones people have replied to, which ones they haven't. And if for whatever reason they're incommunicado, you can just very quickly hit one button, we send it out again saying, hey guys, reminder, this proposal is outstanding. Are you interested? So we're automating what is a very manual process for a lot of these guys right now. Okay, so if I click into my SBA demo job and now go into Plan and Track, you'll see that what was once our budgeting tool is now actually a sort of like a combined project management budget tracking tool. I mean, it takes on a life of its own. This is why Knowify is so much more powerful than trying to run a job off a spreadsheet. So I can come here, I can start to set dates for these things. So I can say, the demo is going to go, maybe first 2 days of next week. So, I can use that aspect of job scheduling in here. You can see the materials that you haven't ordered. Now, obviously, this is only available if you're using us for budgeting. But if you are, then you can see what you've ordered versus what you haven't, again, against your initial expectation. So I can come down here. I could say order materials, click on the things I'm actually going to order right now, start a PO process, takes me right into Nullify's purchasing system. I can now select the vendor. Sorry, I'm going to move this Zoom info. I can select the vendor. Maybe instead I'll use Camco, place more likely to give us credit. I can add taxes and shipping as necessary. And what's really interesting, and so this is a common thread in Knowify, we want to help you run paperlessly. We think paper is over. So I can come in here and I can send this to my vendor straight through the system. And I can use the job site address, which is actually the same as the bill to in this case, but I can update it, Post Ave, Westbury, New York. I can include comments like, please deliver by 9 a.m. 7/18. And I can email to the vendor straight through the system. And they will end up getting, a really clean, easy to process PDF. And, again, it just lets you send all these things out paperlessly. And then in Knowify, if I go back to my job, I can see exactly what I've ordered. So I can come down here. Remember how they said not ordered before? Now it's telling me what PO I ordered it on, how much of it I ordered. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty real-timey way to keep track of what's going on in these jobs. We can also...
Does that then translate to a bill in QuickBooks?
No, we don't. So we don't push the POs to QuickBooks because QuickBooks is pretty limiting on the PO side. I think it's a technical challenge that we'd like to figure out, but I think it's going to take a little bit more work on our end because we do a lot more with our POs than QuickBooks does. And, it's a much more flexible PO system. So it would require us to sort of delete QuickBooks POs and re-push updated ones to try to keep the reconciliation up to date. But you absolutely can reconcile bills against POs in Nullify. So if I come here, go to add new bill, and I say, I don't remember what the PO number was, so I'll process it by actual vendor. I go down to Camco, and you can see that it's going to present the items. I will say, okay, these were on the bill. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't actually $50, it was $52, grumble, grumble. Oh, but this one, thankfully, wasn't $100, it was $95. Nullify is going to take the vendor bill values as the final word in these things. So, we're a job costing system. We take it seriously. We want the final values to be right. So you'll see if I go back to my job again, I should probably just use this quick nav. It's faster. But you'll see that we're now using the new values we enter for the price, not the PO values. So, we're constantly updating the values to get the job cost right. And by the way, that bill, let me see. Having all these Zoom, having all these Zoom bars getting in the way is sort of a funny challenge. Let's see. Dan Roof 7016. And then I'm just showing you, I'm sure you believe me, but we're pushing all of this stuff as it goes out into QuickBooks. So that if I come over here to Camco, here's all the stuff we've been working on. The invoice we just created, I think, was this one, although I'm not sure. Yeah, so here's some of that roofing material. So yeah, Knowify, I think, does a pretty good job of pushing stuff over to QuickBooks, keeping that up to date.
Nice.
And the same thing is true in time. So if I come up here to our time tracker, I go to our foreman view. I'm not going to do manual time cards. We'll do this in a job-based way. So if I come up here and I choose, I don't know, what was the SBA demo job, and I go to demolition, it can present all the guys in my company and ask me, okay, which ones am I going to punch in time for this? And I'll say, okay, Emily and Henry worked on it today. We do have time review and approval in this review time section, which is interestingly the gatekeeper between Nullify and QuickBooks. We don't actually send time to QuickBooks until it's been approved. That can be turned off, but we don't recommend it. And what's cool is back again in my job, I get to see instantly as soon as time gets logged. So you can imagine as soon as a guy in the field clocks off on the job at 4 or 5 o'clock, his time card gets reflected against budget right here in Planet Track. You'll know exactly where you should be. So imagine this is a job where, we're not talking about 30 hours budget. We're talking about 200, 300 hours budgeted. And you have 240 hours of time reflected in there, and your super on the site says, hey, we're doing a great job. We're about halfway done. Nullify is going to tell you right there on the spot, on inspection, that you're behind, that something's going wrong. And it's a huge difference versus the old way these things would happen, which is where time cards would build up on the accountant's desk. The accountant at the end of the week, end of 2 weeks, end of the month, whenever they were doing it, would go in, key it into the system, run reports, and then say, hey, look, I think we're behind. By then, it's way too late. It's 2-3 weeks after you needed to know about that stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty cool to be able to capture this stuff in real time.
So your mobile app, let's talk about that a little bit. You have foremans that could be put in time for their workers, or
Right.
You can have the workers put in their own time, either or?
Right. So it's up to you how you want it done. We do have individual-based check-in, check-out, so that workers can do a check-in and a check-out with GPS timestamps. We also have a foreman-based view where foreman can do one of two things. They can actually enter bulk hours, so they can say, this guy worked 7 hours, or they can check in and check out their workers. So it can be done either way.
That's awesome. And it's a GPS, so that your workers are actually checking in at the site.
At the job site, yeah. We actually recognize a couple of different addresses. We'll recognize your company headquarters. We'll recognize the job site. Because in a lot of cases, workers aren't checking in at the job site. They might be checking in your yard. They might be checking in wherever. And we actually never stop them from checking in. We'll just tell you that was an off-site check-in. And we'll tell you where it was. So, if a worker's checking in at, one of your major suppliers, that's probably an okay, acceptable check-in, but the system will still tell you, hey, look, this isn't the job site. It's not your company headquarters. It's not the client headquarters. Just be aware this is off-site.
So if they stop off at their girlfriend's before they make it to the job site, you'd know.
Yeah, that's right. Or if they try to check in from their girlfriends, like, hey, I woke up a little bit late today, but I want to check in on time.
And you view that in the check-in and out section? That's where you would see that? Or how would you see that?
Yeah. So there are a couple of different places. So it would actually become part of the time entry. So if you actually saw in the time entry, it would, if it's checked in at the job site, it will say job site. If it's checked in, looks like my internet's hiccuping a little bit. If you're checked in, so, I mean, it would become part of the time entry. I actually, unfortunately, didn't set up the mobile app for this demo, but yeah, I mean, it becomes part of the record. Yeah, you can also see it in a map view in our scheduler, so you could compare to last check-ins, and you can actually see overlaid on a map where all your guys are checked in.
Okay. I have a question. I'm also a certified fraud examiner, and one of payroll fraud techniques is what's known as ghost employees, where a supervisor will fill out phony time cards for 50 employees. Or what happens a lot of times is an employee will quit and it just doesn't get, posted to the payroll system. And so it seemed like there'd be a control where you have the ability to compare what the supervisor's saying versus what the GPS is saying.
Yeah, so I mean, the supervisor doesn't get to sort of tell the system where he thinks he's checking in. It just takes the GPS value no matter what. And every time, if a foreman or a super or whoever is actually the one doing the timekeeping from the job site, we're going to let you know that was a foreman-created time entry and not the individual keeping their own time card. And that, I guess it would sort of be part of that control, if I'm understanding your case correctly, because if the foreman is the one committing the fraud, then at least you're going to know that all those time entries are coming from the foreman.
Okay, so you've got something to compare what the foreman's saying versus what.
Oh yeah. I mean, we would definitely have a GPS stamp for if the foreman's doing clock in, clock out for those on behalf of those employees. Okay,
so that'd be an internal control. I was also talking to somebody. He had a landscaping business, and he went out checking his workers one time, and he found out the workers were actually working on another site and not reporting it and basically pocketing the money, And so basically he was paying for their salaries, but they were taking the income off the books. And so it seemed like the GPS tracking would kind of prevent that, where, again, you'd probably have to have somebody monitoring this to see that the GPS actually matches where is it like a continuous GPS, or is it something that...
No, we can't do continuous GPS polling because that drains the heck out of phone batteries. And what happens is that employees start to get really angry and just turn off GPS, and then you lose, half the power of the app. So we can't do continuous polling. If, of course that does create certain capability, like certain abilities for employees if they want to take advantage. They check in on the job site, maybe they roll around, go to their mistresses, come back, check out on the job site again. But it is, it's the comfortable middle ground now until phones get better at interacting with the GPS system.
But in theory, it would kind of show up where you see that your costs are going up, but you're not really finishing.
Yeah, that's right. You'll know there's something really funny when, it seems like you have all this time card time entered, but, you send out a PM and he's saying nothing's happened.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Okay. So let me cover the revenue side of this quickly. So, we have this whole area in contract and change orders. We make change order management a dream. So you just come down here, you click add change order, you put in whatever it's going to be. By the way, if you need to cost these out, of course, you can just save this and go back into plan and track. You can connect the two, you can budget it, come back, mark it up. But in a lot of cases, especially when we're talking about residential guys, it's just something tiny. It's like add accessory structure. To scope of work, and then it's $1,000. In which case they don't feel like they have to budget it. They don't have to build a whole track section for it. So they would just come in here, quickly send it out for signature. And this is a case where e-signature really shines because we're going to take on the hassle of tracking which change orders are out, which ones have been signed, which ones haven't, etc. So
it's big.
Yeah, no, it's a good feature. It really is. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard from customers who say, my GC asked me what new system I was using because they thought it was really cool. It's like, wow, this is not just some trashy email you're sending me, or like a phone call saying, hey, can we get this approved? It actually is like a formatted, and in the commercial ones, AIA compliant change order document that sort of presents the change, makes clear the contract impact. So, in that way, it really does make you look more professional. So I manually approved that one just to show you how we can bill it. Once approved, obviously, these things do become billable. So I'm going to come over here, say Invoice Now. This is going to take you into Nullify's progress billing interface. It's just going to ask you to bill, what percent completion, whatever percent completion you want. We can do it based on dollar values. I would say in most cases it's easier to bill percent completion, but it's obviously up to your clients to figure out what they want. So we'll say we're halfway through the demolition, change orders we bill half up front. I come over here, that's my wife texting me. I can come over here and edit this invoice as necessary. So I might say that this is, contractual down payment. And then I can come down here, verify and finalize, send it to QuickBooks. I can send it to my client via email if that's what I want. And once I finalize, off it goes. Here again is an opportunity for us to create custom templates for you. So that if you have a very particular look you want for your invoices, we can certainly do that for you as well.
Nice. Very professional looking.
And, off it goes to QuickBooks to save you the hassle of double entering it. Let me see. So if I go over here, customers, we had our SBA demo job. So, here's our demolition, our contractual down payment. So all this stuff is coming through. We do have ways, if you want, and this is sort of between you and your customer, to set it up so that we can actually be more resolved in the items we're pushing against. So if you're using catalog items as the basis for bidding or for creating change orders and stuff like that, we actually will push to those specific items on the invoice pushing side. So, there are a bunch of different levels of sync specificity. And again, it comes down to what you and your client are trying to achieve. Obviously having to use an item every time you create a proposal line item or a change order is a little bit restrictive, so not everybody wants to do that. On the other hand, it can give you great resolution on the accounting side, so it's up to you.
Nice. So do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. I would just be kind of curious where your new customers are coming from. The reason I asked is that QBO historically has had the reputation of not being able to do job costing. So is it people that are using QBO that have found you through the App Store, or is it people that have used your app and then decided that, well, it works with QBO, I'll switch to them? It seems like, I just kind of wonder where your new clients are coming from, since, like I say, historically, QBO has a reputation of can't doing job costing. Yeah,
what's interesting is that a lot of contractors have switched anyway, just because. I'm not sure I could tell you why. But we do have a lot of lead volume coming from apps.com, the QuickBooks marketplace. Because people do need to round out the deficiencies of QBO, as you well know. We do have a bunch of clients, too, who use Knowify and other accounting software and double enter. And I'm not sure that that's the greatest thing. I will say that, we're getting very close to launching our new QuickBooks Desktop Sync. We partnered with Propelware. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They have the Autify widget. It's a sync, it's a powerful little sync widget that would connect Knowify to a QuickBooks Desktop file. The sync there won't be quite as robust as what we offer with the online, but it is full featured. it's got all the major areas covered.
Is Xero or Sage on the roadmap?
So Sage is an interesting one. Ask me that again in about 5 months. So that one I'll keep under wraps. We will never do Sage 300 or anything like that. I mean, our clients are not Timberline people. Xero, no. And not that I don't have tremendous respect for Xero. It's just that nobody in our particular segment of the market seems to have any interest in Xero. So, I mean, integrations are hard. I mean, they really are a challenge, especially with accounting platforms where you want to be really, really tight. If you're just trying to do junky integrations like pushing clients, vendors, basic items like that, that's easy. That you can integrate with the universe. But if you're trying to do really deep integrations across, critical things that can get edited and deleted and updated, I mean, those are the things that require a whole lot of attention and time. And for us, we would almost certainly not get anything out of a Xero integration that would justify that.
So also, as far as security, I'm assuming you have to. I'm sure Intuit has guidelines as far as integrating with QBO as far as data security and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. They actually have an independent auditor that goes through and tries to do very not nice things to the website on a fairly regular basis. I would say twice a year. And if they find things, they send us deficiency reports, and we correct them, and know what we've done. And so yeah, I mean, Intuit's I give them credit in this regard. They're very much on top of making sure their vendor ecosystem is not slinging a whole bunch of garbage, or at least not garbage that's going to get their users in trouble.
So are you storing like social numbers and credit card numbers? And
no, we actually don't touch credit cards.
You wouldn't need to.
Yeah, no, we outsource that to Stripe. I mean, we do because we have a recurring billing service, right? So subscribers to Nullify plunk down their credit card, but we let a third party handle all of that. And Stripe is sort of the industry standard in our space for payment transaction processing. And on the social security number, we don't ask for that. I don't want that. We in the distant future, we may take a look at certified payroll because we know it's a humongous problem. And that would obviously require things like social security numbers. But we, for now, are very, very, very happy not having.
How about, so is it QBO's responsibility to give out the 1099s for the subs?
Yes.
So
we support 1099 subs, and we will push if you want time cards for 1099 subs, but we do not produce the 1099s.
But you wouldn't store the EINs or the social numbers on the 1099. Okay.
Mm-mm.
So it looks to me like Knowify is a pretty complete package for the subcontractors. And in most cases, they wouldn't even really need to go into QuickBooks. I mean, everything they need to do is contained in Knowify. So us as advisors could keep track of the financials in QuickBooks and allow the customer to do everything they need to do in your program.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we would like for your clients to be working in Nullify. And, the sort of like the hush-hush message here is, and stay out of QuickBooks, because that's so much better for everyone, I mean, obviously, contractors have sort of a reputation when it comes to befouling QuickBooks accounts. And it's much better if they do their work in Knowify and we push to QuickBooks, and then somebody, because accounting takes it requires a background. You have to know what you're doing in accounting to assemble things correctly, to make meaningful financials, etc. And people who don't have any background in accounting sort of miss some of the essential steps to the process, and so make a mess. If we can just have them use Nullify, which is oriented towards work process, not towards bookkeeping, they typically get it pretty well, and then the accountant can take care of the proper bookkeeping and costing and coding on the QuickBooks side.
It seems like most apps house all the detail, and so if you want to get the detail report, you go to the app, as opposed to, I'm sure that Knowify probably has better better financials or better job costing reports than say QBO.
Yeah, we'll definitely have much better job costing reports. I mean, the sorts of reports that we have decided not to spend a whole lot of time building are things like account statements. So if you want to send your client a statement of account, go to QuickBooks. QuickBooks does that fine. If you want to pull an aging report, I mean, Nullify's overall invoice table will certainly show you aging, but if you want to print it out, go to QuickBooks. I mean, that's what they do really well. Those basic reports, those are fine. But in terms of if you want to come in and get a really detailed advanced jobs report, this is what Nullify does. So we can download this to a spreadsheet. Interestingly, most of our clients want spreadsheets, not PDFs, so they can manipulate them, run calculations and stuff like that. But you can see that this is going to have contract value and, potentially work in process and, labor, materials, subs, broken out, costs versus budget, remaining values. So all this stuff, who the salesman was, who the project manager, all that stuff we have. That's not QuickBooks side data.
So as an advisor, how would we be working with our clients and Nullify? And what would we need to know to be able to support a client using Nullify?
So I mean, there are a lot of layers to the second question. I mean, in terms of what you would need to know, I mean, I think when it comes to starting the client with Nullify, one of the things that we really love to figure out very quickly is what they're trying to get out of the system, what their major business pain points are that we can solve quickly, rather than just shoehorning them into sort of what we might consider a general Nullify install or general Nullify experience. In terms of what the advisors can do, so we love working with advisors, and we love to train advisors. We love to go hands-on with the advisors, walk them through the system, make sure they really, really understand it, if that's the experience they want. And we try to incentivize that because obviously if the advisor is supporting the customer, they're going to know the customer far better than we ever will. They're going to be able to get more power out of the system by being on-site, hearing the customer, adapting the system to their needs than we will. So it's better for everyone. And we try to incentivize that by having a separate tier in our reseller program for advisors who want to lead the relationship, who want to be the ones to implement the software with the customer. And that obviously requires some degree of familiarity and experience working with Nullify. And that's why we provide the training.
So is this a good place to talk about your tiered system for your
Sure. I'm really excited to share that Nullify recently launched a co-branded Woodard Nullify Construction Advisor Network. So we're working with Woodard, as you all know, probably the top network of QuickBooks Pro advisors. And a great education resource in its own right. And what we're doing is more than just providing a resale program for Nullify. We're right now in the process of putting together a whole host of materials ranging from industry primers for advisors who are not that familiar with construction and want to get caught up to speed reasonably quickly, because there is a certain jargon to construction. You have to understand the process, I think, before you really get into it. So we want to help provide primers for things like that. We have best practices checklists for things about, implementing accounting software, implementing basic business management software, looking for areas where you can add value quickly as an advisor in terms of reviewing and improving process. So, we're trying to build a whole resource repository like that to really help advisors who join this construction advisor network. And as part of that, there's sort of this additional Nullify reseller program, so that if you want to get involved with Nullify, recommending Nullify to your clients, reselling Nullify, we have a multi-tiered program, as Gina mentioned. We have the first tier is strictly commission-based, and is if you don't really want to be that involved with supporting the Nullify account and implementing it. So in that case, what we do is you feed us, a client for whom it could work. We will work very closely with them to try to get it implemented and try to make them successful. And if that goes through, great. We'll give you guys. We'll pass through the first 3 months of revenue on that account. After which point we say thank you so much. We hope to do business again. The second tier up is if you want to lead the relationship and you want to learn Knowify and you want to drive things forward. That can be is a revenue share for us. So it can be, depending upon how much support you want to provide, it can be up to a 30% perpetual revenue share. And what's cool is the additional side of that program is if we have success working with you as a pro advisor and you successfully implement a client and you're supporting them and it looks like you really get the program, we will feed you qualified regional leads for customers signing up for Nullify who are of a certain size where there's really an opportunity for a pro advisor to get in there and be a good, a business consultant and Nullify implementer. And we would hope that that would lead to a longer term relationship for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said 3 tiers. Those are the first 2?
And the third tier is this is not going to be anything available immediately right off the bat, but the third tier is sort of the pro advisor of pro advisors. And what we'll do in that case is we'll have a very small number of these very top tier pro advisors who are working a lot with Knowify and really get the system and understand how it's implemented and where it succeeds and how to use it, how not to use it. And they will be sort of like a go-to resource for other pro advisors. And they will, we'll make sure that we home market them, support them extensively, do a lot of things to sort of make them very much a center of our ecosystem. So yeah, and that's going to be that's an interesting and exciting tier that will grow over time.
Will there be a certification program much like the Pro Advisor certification?
Yes, that is something that we're working on. So our this construction advisor network reseller program is quite new. We're still working out some of the details on exactly how we want to implement it. But yes, we do expect there to be some sort of certification.
Nice. I'm going to ask you to stop screen sharing now. We have a couple minutes left. I want to open up for everyone's questions. And I think, Sarah, I'm not sure if you had said, Dan, you should talk about the app's ability to record expenses.
Yeah, so, as you guys well know, construction is as much a field business as an office business. So when guys are out in the field, if they have to purchase from the field, they can go into our mobile app and they can make purchases for jobs and record them from the field. And that would allow them to go through. And what's interesting is they can either create a purchase order, if it is a purchase order. They can create a credit card expense or a cash expense. And what's cool is based on what they put in there, we will first send it to Nullify for job costing. So, it'll go to the right job, it'll show up in the budget, all that other good stuff. And then it will go to QuickBooks depending on how they've, what they've classified it as, whether it's, cash expense, credit card expense. And that actually really leverages the automation power of QBO because that gets pushed to QBO. The transaction side of QBO pulls in, the credit card item or the credit card expense or the bank feed expense, and then they match up. You click match, done. Everybody goes on their merry way. So
there is an added layer to it though that you can do, which is when you're setting up that user, you can zero out their values if they don't have purchase authority, and that stuff will go directly to their manager. So their project manager can review it first and see it and then approve the process, and then it will sync through. So it'll hold on the dashboard.
Yeah.
Really nice feature.
It's I thank you, Sarah, for adding that. I did, or much earlier on, I made some mention of the PO approval process, but you're right. It's a great way to make sure that the office knows what's going on. They're not these sort of like flying expenses all around.
And people out there just purchasing willy-nilly.
Yeah, right, why not?
Yeah.
How about do you handle like completed contract where you capitalize the costs and then once the product, this would be for like a home builder where you would capitalize the costs and then also taking the payments as liabilities, and then when the thing actually goes to closing, then you would recognize the income expense. Is Nullify?
Yeah, so we don't really, those are all very interesting accounting questions. This even goes to, and so we don't really work with home builders. I sort of mentioned that earlier.
Right, okay.
But we do work with some large commercial subs who take on $1 million plus jobs. And, in those cases, especially if they're doing audited financials, because maybe they have investors or they want to capture some measure of their work in process, and they would typically think of it as work completed but not yet billed on their balance sheet. And we don't push that. I mean, we will report on that. We'll tell you what we think that number is in Knowify. We're not going to push it because it's such a fraught area of accounting. Think about how many companies have gotten in major, major trouble playing around with those numbers. And so we let them figure it out. I don't want to push anything to QuickBooks that's going to create legal liability for Nullify. Like, hey, but you told me this was,
I made decisions based on
$300,000 in work in process. What are you doing?
I think that's where you'd use that catalog for products and services and the way that you'd set that up for yourself, depending on how you bill for that item.
Well, that's where you could map it as in there, as opposed to going to an expense, you'd map it to an asset or a liability.
Yeah, and then you would manage that as you would be for that part of it, and say they can do their stuff on their end, and you would do yours.
That would be right. Absolutely, absolutely. The client would be doing what they're doing. We could run the report, the percentage completed, and that report, oh my gosh, you can't get that report from QuickBooks Desktop. I don't know anywhere you can actually get that report.
I thought you could get a work in process report.
Not percentage complete.
Oh,
Not percentage complete. Not that. That report is amazing to me because I have tried to create that report from QuickBooks Desktop.
And they're fast. You guys are so fast. I had a problem with the payroll report, and I guess it was something Dan always wanted, and Karen was like, oh, this is great. You're pushing us to do it. And they did it within a couple of days, and I had the right report. So, your support is amazing.
Quickly, we try, and especially if it's something that a lot of clients want, we try to push very quickly.
Can you customize reports similar to like with the QuickBooks Desktop? You can add different fields on.
Yeah, no, we haven't built a report building engine like that. I mean, that's a lot of work. We would like to do that at some point. It's just we're not there yet.
Any other questions from anybody? No?
Here, I have a mascot.
Oh, nice.
Freya.
What's his name?
That's Freya. She came by to say hello.
You must be watching our hangouts.
Yeah.
Like people have dogs or cats in these hangouts.
One last question, Dan. Anyone is interested in learning more information? If they want to know more about you, where can they find it?
What I would say is email us at support@knowify.com. I would give my email, but it's long and
that's okay.
We'll stick with support. And what we'll do is we'll set up a time to go through a demo with anybody who wants one independently and answer any questions they have in the course of that demo.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Sorry?
Do you have a YouTube channel?
We do have a YouTube channel. It has a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing about a YouTube channel is it can't talk back to you. So if you're really interested, we love working with pro advisors. I mean, we would bend over backwards to work with pro advisors because, I think it makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
So we, as much as we like our training videos on YouTube and things like that, we would love to go deeper with the pro advisors, really, help them and understand what we do and get them going.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming and talking to us, showing us your awesome program. I think QBO has been waiting for this forever. And Sarah, I know you love it. You just have can't say enough good things.
I love it. I use it every day now. It's my world.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It changed us. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come chat with you all. It really is. It was cool. And awesome. You know what? Forgive me. I'm stunned that you guys were so engaged on a Friday afternoon. I am deeply impressed. This reminds you why I like working with pro advisors.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Happy to hear that. Well, we're going to end here. So everyone have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.